Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Today we're talking about the fourth P and how farmers, vendors, and managers are all farmers market professionals.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Farmers Market University, offering a self-paced online Market Management 101 course for new market managers year-round, and live market management certification classes annually. Learn all the skills you need to manage a new market or improve your current market's operations and reduce your stress. Tent Talk listeners can take advantage of $25 off by using the code FMPROS25 when registering for the next live online Market Manager certification class that starts in January 2025 and runs for 12 weeks. For more information, click the Farmers Market University logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
All right, well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody.
And I am back.
And welcome back to town, Kat.
I was on such a roll of conferences. So many.
You're really on the conference tour.
It has been the conference tour this year, especially this last half of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Blue Earth Summit just outside of London. That was fascinating, all about climate change, and talked a little bit there about regenerative agriculture and how short food chains can kind of help keep our planet together.
Yep. Very important.
Very important. And then I was at the Shared Kitchen Summit in New Orleans. That was an amazing event. I mean, they did some fantastic things, and actually their whole process with their speaker support and things gave me some ideas for our conference too.
Yeah, it came back with lots of ideas.
Lots of ideas.
Like.
And then the end of their conference, they did a second line march through New Orleans to the Golden Whisk Awards.
How fun is that?
How fun. We are definitely working on a closing party for Intense for 2025. And then I was at the Mid-Atlantic Farmers Market Conference, and I was a keynote there and talked about our theme for this year, Speak Up for Farmers Markets, and got to cover a little bit about clapping back at greenwashing and how we can really advocate for farmers markets. We're such a huge industry, and we're a sleeping giant, folks. We don't talk enough about how important we are and how much of a difference it makes when you shop at markets in terms of supporting farmers.
Absolutely. All important messages. So nice to see you out there in the circuit, spreading the word.
That's right.
And those conferences looked rad. So I'm excited for what ideas we have cooking now for our conference coming up.
That's right.
Hopefully not too many, as you do sometimes.
I know. I have an idea. Those words coming out of my mouth does strike fear into my team. I know. I try to moderate.
We get excited and shudder at the same time. So we'll balance it out. And and just really looking forward to a great event for us with our folks coming to our conference coming up right around the corner in March.
March is right around the corner.
Oh my gosh, I can't
Crazy,
believe
right?
it. Cannot believe it.
Yep.
All right, so let's get down to the topic at hand for today's episode of Tent Talk. We are going to be talking about that fourth P.
Yeah, we started talking about the 4 Ps way back when we first started offering our Vendor 101 class, when we used to do it in person.
Oh, yeah.
2010.
Oh, my gosh.
That's how long we've been doing that.
Cannot believe it. Those were so fun. And I know we really find that those 4 things that we talked about, or that we continue to talk about in Vendor 101, are really essential for vendor success. So when we say 4 Ps, this is what we're talking about: product, presentation, personality, and that 4th P, which is our topic today, professionalism.
I know we've talked sometimes about those elements and ended up throwing in a 5th, 6th, or 7th, like packaging.
Yeah.
That's actually part of presentation.
Yeah, sometimes I say packaging instead of presentation, but all kind of the same. I mean packaging, like actual, what is your food product packaged in, or your artisan product, like what are you using material-wise? But mostly it's presentation, like the packaging of your business. What does it look like? And banners and all of that kind of stuff. So that P.
Persistence.
Definitely persistence. That could be one of them.
And our original slogan, passion meet profit. Let's see how many P's we can do here.
It's a lot of hard P's. We could throw in parking.
Oh, yeah. There's a biggie.
Not sure if that's just vendor specific, just everybody. But
that's right.
Maybe that's because we're in San Diego.
So today we're going to concentrate on professionalism.
That's right. So when we talk about professionalism, what are we talking about? It starts out really with the application process. So when you're filling out the application, we're talking, to vendors about filling out that application. You want to make sure you're reading the application and following instructions.
I'd like to just take even one step before that, only because I've had this experience so much in the last couple of months. If you're interested in joining a market, use the Google or whatever search engine, makes you happy, and look for an application online, because most markets by this point, it's, 2024, most markets have an application online. And so if you spend a lot of time crafting an email that says, "Hi, this is what I do, and I want to apply for your farmer's market," what the market manager is going to do is send you back a link to the application. Do yourself and them and us a favor and just find the application and fill that out. That's what they're going to need before they can answer any other questions.
Exactly. There's typically a lot of information about how to apply on almost every farmer's market website that I've seen. Or if you go to the market, there's application information, maybe posted somewhere, or there's flyers or something. Do a little discovery to try to figure out that information on your own, just to save yourself some time, because then you don't have to send that email and then wait for a reply. That kind of wastes time, that process. And also for the market manager, if we spend time to put all the information on our website and put links to the application and have a form ready for you, we really want you to just use it. So we don't have to spend our time replying to a bunch of individual emails asking for the link.
And you taking the initiative to look for that and use it indicates to us that you're somebody that takes initiative, and that's going to help your business, and it's going to help your business being successful. Is going to help the market. And so that's a good first sign for us.
Yeah, definitely. So try to think about that ahead of time. Sometimes we get DMs in our Instagram just saying, "I want to apply to this market." And it's like, okay, there's like link in bio. I mean, if you find a market on social media, look at their links that are in their bio. Look at, have they posted any stories? Do they have highlights saved about how to apply? I mean, all those things really exist in a lot of market pages that I've seen. So try to do that first. I honestly just usually ignore those DMs, because that's just, if you're not going to look for that information, I don't want to have to remind you a million times about market rules and things like that. So think about that ahead of time for sure. That's all part of being professional.
So really, you're not expecting someone else, the market manager or their social media person, for goodness sakes,
Yes.
to invest their time in responding to information that's already on the application.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Granted, some folks do want you to reach out individually. Some market organizers are set up that way. So if you really search around and there's not information out there for you, then definitely reach out to that market manager. But do a little background research first.
Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I would say another thing that starts during the application process is being on time for sampling appointments. If you are applying to a market that schedules sample drop-offs.
I mean, it's secretly a test, right?
Yep.
I mean, we schedule people to drop off samples of their products, partly so that we can look at the product, make sure the packaging is correct, make sure the labeling is legal, taste it, because we're sort of curators for our shoppers in terms of offering a quality product.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of that is we're setting a day and time for you to deliver samples. And if you don't show up for that,
Mm-hmm.
or you reschedule at the last minute a couple of times,
Yeah.
we're going to maybe start to think that you're not going to take your market schedule seriously either.
Exactly. And if this is just something that you're kind of feeling out, or maybe it's a hobby for you that you're not ready to really take seriously, that's fine. But please don't waste a market manager's time with that kind of situation that you have going on. I had a vendor, ask if he could mail me the samples in the mail, because he ships his product. And also what I'm doing when you drop samples off is I want to meet you, and I want to see, how your personality is, the other P kind of, do you act professionally when you come and speak to me about your product? Because that's kind of a test. I'm really trying to make sure that you're going to be professional with the shoppers that are at the market and the other vendors. So I'm kind of want to feel you out and get to know you a little bit. So take that seriously, that sample drop off for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yep.
And part of all that is just don't apply if you're not ready to start. So if you don't have a product, you're not really to the stage where you should be applying.
Yep.
If you're just gathering information, keep researching, but you want to apply when you're actually ready to roll.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could take Vendor 101.
You could take Vendor 101. That's right.
Vendor-101.com. Check it out.
There we go. Exactly.
If you're not ready, that'll get you ready. So check that out. But, honestly, really go get the education, learn what you need to do before you start talking. I mean, I think some market managers really enjoy the process of walking folks through the process. So if they are saying that they are willing to do that and want to do that, that's wonderful. But if you have a market manager who's saying, okay, the first step is filling out this application when you're ready, don't do that unless you're ready,
Right.
because it's just wasting everyone's time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then let's talk about professionalism at the market, because that's actually kind of more of our topic today. So being aware of all the market rules and guidelines. Presumably, when you're accepted to a market, your market manager has either provided you with a set of rules or they've given you a link to the set of rules that says what they expect from you as a vendor in terms of operating at the market.
Yep. And we've talked about that too for market operators, how to set up those market rules, how to make them accessible and clear. You want to make sure you're having real clear rules and guidelines. That's the market operator's responsibility, and making sure that those are out there for everyone to access. But as a vendor, making sure that you're keeping up on those and that you are reading them frequently to kind of refresh yourself. When you get a new staff member, you're going through that with them as well.
Yeah, that's a big one, sharing it with the staff that's actually going to be at the market if you have, say, multiple markets that you're servicing and it's not going to be you yourself in that tent.
For sure. And you set your staff up for success that way. That's a professional thing to do if you're running a professional business.
Yeah. Setting up on time, I think that's probably a market guideline that almost every market has. I do every once in a while in our online discussion group see somebody that says, yeah, I'm fine. I just put those late arrivals on the end. And if they set up a little later, that's fine. But for most markets, I think nowadays, if you're trying to be professional, we're trying to compete with big box stores. They're open when they say they're going to be. So if somebody rushes to get to the market before they drop their kids at school just to pick up a few things and you're not set up, they're frustrated. And next time they're going to go to Trader Joe's. And that's not what we want. We want to form good habits. So we have to be trustworthy for our shoppers. And that means you got to get there on time.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more markets kind of take that seriously as we get into more cohesive, but like professional group. We want folks to, like we've said in multiple episodes, like where our point is to have shoppers create a habit of shopping at the market. And so if they can't rely on us to be open and every vendor to be there selling at the times we say that we're open, that really discourages them from making that habit. So make sure as a vendor you are aware of that and the why of why that rule exists, and kind of play along. If that's what your market expects from you, you need to make sure you're meeting those expectations.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, there's a couple of other things about rolling up late, too. For one thing, you're causing anxiety with your manager. We had a meme recently about folks who roll up the last minute, and actually are set up quickly. So if you've got sort of a minimal booth setup and you understand you can't bring a vehicle into the market and you have a system figured out where you can get there 10 minutes before opening and still actually be opening and selling on time.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you can do that.
I have about 2 or 3 folks that do that every week at our big Saturday market, and they come like 12 minutes before the market is open, and they just walk it in from the corner, and they really are set up and ready to sell at 8 a.m. when we open. So they do accomplish the goal.
And you know it's going to happen, but it still makes you anxious, right?
I just would never, if I were to ever be a vendor, I would be that person that shows up like right when the street closes. I'd be there at 6 a.m.
I mean, you're at the movie theater an hour before the show starts. We know you would not be a late arrival.
When Kat and I travel together, it's like, I'll meet you there. I'm going 3 hours early. So, yeah, but I think some folks can get there kind of late, but it does give me anxiety. And if it is the off chance where you overslept, the vendor overslept, or they're in if they're in an accident on the way, it's like we don't know that until really the very last minute. And so we're waiting to make sure that they do show up and that they're setting up. And then, market operators have to set the barricades, put the trash cans out, put the caution tape up, talk to the musicians to get started. We're setting up our own info booth. So things like that. So we have tasks that we need to do leading up to that opening time. So vendors that come in really late, it just isn't a very professional way to act. And it's also like kind of disrespectful to the market managers that have their own stuff to do as well. We're there to set the whole market up. So we don't want to stand there waiting for you to come to make sure that you have arrived.
And I think it causes anxiety for their neighbors.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of folks that have a booth set up and they're eyeing that spot that's empty and hoping they don't have to move any of their display for the person to squeeze in because they're coming late and they don't have time to really be in place. So, yeah, all those things. And you know what? There's going to be traffic.
Yep.
Leave earlier. Worst case, you have time to get a cup of coffee after you've set up and before the market opens.
For sure. Yep. It's just like any job, really. I mean, if you were an employee at a job, would you be like flying in at the last minute and clocking in and kind of, or being, I mean, I guess you can show up. I haven't had a real job in a while. I don't know what that means, but do you come in right when your shift starts? I guess I would get there a few minutes early at least to make sure,
get
like, hey, I'm
organized.
here. I'm going to be here today. So think of it like that. What else while you're at the market?
Well, setup etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to just be, I mean, you're a business owner and you're thinking about your business. And so it's kind of easy to be sort of self-absorbed, just really focusing on your own thing. But try to put yourself in other people's shoes. So when you're blocking the aisle or your tables extend past your 10 by 10 space, that means it's extending into somebody else's 10 by 10 space. You know, you need to confirm with the market manager that you actually have some extra space. Some markets do. Some markets have big spaces between their booths, and so you have that flexibility. Other markets are really busy. They've got a finite amount of space. They want to give opportunities to every vendor they can to participate. So that means you're pretty cuddled up, and that means you need to occupy your 10 by 10 space, not your 10-foot space and a couple extra feet on each side.
Yeah, exactly. If the market is set up in a way to where you have a 10 by 10 space and that's what your booth fee covers, making sure you're not sticking a table out or a sign out. Do you have a big sign that's kind of clipped onto the side of your booth that's blocking your neighbor or blocking the aisle? So just kind of taking a look at what your display looks like and being courteous to the other vendors around you. And then also kind of watching the flow of traffic in front of your booth. Are people having to, swerve their strollers around or duck under a sign, like things like that? You want to help make the environment really kind of pleasant to shop and to walk around. So make sure you're doing your part in that as well.
I remember when Allie Ball from Retail Ready spoke at our conference a few years back, and she said one of the best things to do is set up your booth and then step out front and look at it. Actually, I think she said look at it like a 10-year-old would look at it. Is it really obvious what you're selling? Are you in your space? Is your display easy to navigate?
Yeah.
So that's helpful.
That's super helpful. And then look at your neighbors and say, are
Right.
their displays easy to navigate with your display in place?
Right.
Yeah. So making sure you're having a cohesive situation with your neighbors within the market. Yeah, I think that's great. I did join a vendor and operator group, but it's mostly vendors on Facebook. And it's really interesting. It's actually been such a great learning experience for me because it's vendors. It's mostly craft vendors doing craft shows, but they're asking hey, do you guys like this display? And they send pictures and they're talking about different events that they're doing and holiday events. And it's a really lively group. And someone said, oh, market operators, if I could give you some advice, it would be don't put me right next to somebody else, when our tents are touching, because it's so hard to move around. I can't come out. And then in that same discussion, someone said, weren't you just on here saying that you were so frustrated because a market didn't have space for you to come in? This is how markets make space for everybody. They have to cuddle everybody up, and you still get that 10 by 10 space, but you don't get 12 by 12. If it's 10 by 10, it's 10 by 10. You have to work within that space so that they can really give more folks an opportunity to participate in that market. And it was such a great discussion. And the vendor was oh, I didn't think about that. So it was great to hear vendors talk about how they think of their space at the market.
I love it.
Yeah, and how it applies to them. And it just doesn't occur to them sometimes how the whole operation is happening. But yeah, it was a good chat. So that kind of helped me be able to talk to my vendors about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it from the other side. I'm in a very active market farmers group online. And same thing. You hear them talk about things. You think, I didn't realize maybe I was coming across like that, or I didn't realize that this is a priority for my farmers. So it's really helpful for us all to try to kind of understand what each other's jobs and responsibilities and things are at the market.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, it's been really helpful. I know a lot of my vendors listen to Tent Talk. So hello, everybody.
It's true, yeah.
And they say, oh, I've learned so much about the operations side of this, where I was just in this market as a vendor and hearing, you and Kat talk about how the operations side is. And when we talk to other market operators, their feedback about running markets, they've just learned so much as well. So it really is, we're all on the same team. We're all in the same group here. So understanding each other's perspectives is really important and helps a market flow so much better.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So in that same vein,
Yep.
Other ways that you can be a professional, especially when it comes to dealing with your fellow vendors, staying in your booth. There's a biggie. And that's respectful of your fellow vendors and also respectful of your shoppers. Shoppers get so frustrated. Sometimes they only have a little bit of time. Maybe they're fighting a parking meter. Maybe they have to be at a job.
Yep.
They're trying to run through and get their groceries, which is what we're trying to teach them to do. And then they come upon your booth, but you're out wandering and having coffee. I mean, everybody has to take a bio break. I get it.
Yeah.
You can't be there all the time. But if you're spending a lot of your time at the market out wandering around, chit-chatting with your fellow vendors, having a cup of coffee, while your booth sits there and nobody can get the product that you've left, that's a problem. And it's frustrating for the vendor next to you who's probably having to manage a lot of questions from your shoppers saying, hey, when are they going to be back? Can you sell me this? How much is this? So instead of concentrating on their shoppers, they're having to navigate yours.
Exactly. And I don't think that occurs to a lot of vendors who do end up wandering out of their booth. They think, well, I'm just missing out on my sales for my business. What does it matter? Like we've just discussed, it matters a lot to everybody. But also your next door neighbor vendor or the neighbor behind you, they're having to speak to your customers who are not buying from them. They want to buy from your business, but it's taking them away from their shoppers. So keeping that in mind as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's polite to your fellow vendors, and it's also just good for you. I'm always confused by people who pay their fee, they come to the market, they set up a pretty booth, and then they seem very casual about whether or not they're there to make sales.
Exactly. I'm like, you're here for like 9 hours. You don't want to like laser focus on making as many sales as possible.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yes.
I always wonder, too, if anybody walks off with product when we've got a vendor that's
Yeah.
out of their booth a long time.
That's definitely something to consider. I haven't heard of that kind of problem happening, but it definitely could. Like they just really leave all their stuff on the table.
I've seen them even leave cash boxes. It's
Oh,
crazy.
I'd
Yeah.
be so nervous.
Yep.
Yeah. So kind of keeping that in mind. Again, coming back to being professional, this isn't like a bake sale at a school where you're there to socialize and also kind of make some sales. This is a professional business. We're all running professional businesses. So being there to make sales, it goes along with the same rule of why we don't let folks break down and leave early, because then you're not there for the shoppers. Well, if your booth is there, but you're not there to sell anybody anything, it's like you're not there.
Same effect.
So same thing. Yeah. And then definitely being respectful to your other vendors includes, making eye contact with your folks that are walking by is good. Yelling out to customers at the top of your lungs, not so great.
Especially for the person next to you who has to hear you all day saying, get your sample, grab my product. Just let's do that quietly.
Let's do it quietly. I do have a few vendors who are chatty with the folks in the aisle. And I do have conversations with them about making sure they're not screaming at the top of their lungs or being, too crazy about it. And also putting, folks next to them who enjoy that and they're friends and it's all like party atmosphere and it creates sales for everybody's. But really, if a vendor gives me feedback that that's too much, I go talk to that vendor and say, hey, this is too much. You guys all have to play nice and play together down here. Same for music. And I know we've talked about this at past episodes. And I used to be really hardcore about like no one can play music in their booth. I have loosened up a little bit because it does kind of create a nice atmosphere if someone has a little music happening, making sure it's not affecting your fellow vendors, making sure the music is appropriate. All genres are welcome, but just that the language is appropriate and that
No explicit lyrics.
no explicit
yeah.
lyrics, no like, rave music that's like the same thumping noise all day. Like nothing like annoying, or like sometimes folks have played like kind of depressing music, like sad love song music where it's like, oh, it's a good song, but it's like, okay, well, it makes people sad and maybe sad people shop more. I don't know, but like that's not the vibe we're going for. So
it's a complicated approach, retail therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're trying to depress everybody to make them spend money. No, that's not what we want to do. So and then as a vendor, just making sure that you're checking in about that stuff. Don't just
Sure.
assume that you can play whatever music, that you can stick your table out a little bit, that you can shout. Just check in because the
Yeah.
market operator has probably
Well, I mean,
some
on the
structure.
music thing, sometimes folks are scheduling musicians and you don't want to be clashing with that too. So
Please.
pay attention and check in with your actual neighbor
Yeah.
and say, is this, how's the volume on this? I know you're trying to talk to your shoppers.
Exactly. Kind of take that into consideration. You can talk to your neighbor and say, hey, how are things going? We're next to each other every day, once a week, year round. So like, are we good? Is there anything I could do to help? Those kinds of things. So
And speaking of talking to your neighbor,
Yep.
everybody makes good friends.
Yeah.
Everybody becomes part of a market family, especially with your immediate neighbor at the market. So chatting is fun, but read the room. Are they trying to reset their display and they really need to think about how that gets set up? Are they trying to talk with a customer? Step back for a second from talking with them and look around. Are they really trying to concentrate on something else? And even though they love you, just might not be a good time to chat.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of taking that into account when you are going into chatty mode at the market. Also respecting the market team. Definitely something that fortunately I don't have to have too many talks about with my vendors, but I know it comes up. They have to relay requirements often to avoid regulations being violated that would risk the whole market's permit. So folks listen to me typically at the market. They know who I am, and they're anytime I say do this or do that, they listen. But sometimes if my team is saying, hey, you have to move your car to the fire lane, or you have to move your car off the street by 7:30, or you can't break down right now. Sometimes vendors take it less seriously when it's like a new staffer. So making sure as a vendor you recognize that the market staff is typically relaying stuff that's coming from the market operator, and that those rules are in place for a good reason, and it affects the whole market
And
if you're violating that.
yeah, because they're relaying information from the operator, who is often relaying information from city requirements or fire marshal requirements or health department issues or any number of things that have to be followed.
Have to be followed whether it's nonsense or not.
That's right. We're not necessarily endorsing, but we're requiring, because we have to do that to keep your permit safe and our permit safe.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you are unclear about why a rule is being, why someone's telling you to follow a rule, you can ask for clarity. Maybe not in the moment. If your car is sitting in the middle of the market, you really need to listen and move it. But you can always reach out to the market manager and say, hey, can you help me understand this rule a little bit? I'm not sure why your staff told me to do this or that.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes both ways. So we need to be professional too. If you're
Mhm.
on a market team, do what you need to do to get that information across, but be aware that everybody may be stressed. So, I mean, during setup and breakdown in particular, especially if it's a big, busy market, there can be a tendency to be abrupt. It's kind of like a busy restaurant kitchen when you're in the weeds.
Yeah.
Explanations are ideal, but you may not have time for that. But at the same time, you can say, please get your car out of the aisle. Thank you. I mean,
Yes.
that's a little bit better than just saying, move it, move it, move it. So, I mean, a
Yeah.
little bit of professionalism can go a long ways when you're on the market team side as well.
Yeah. Yes. And, vendors understanding that market operators and staff do have stress days as well. It is our responsibility to be professional and to communicate these things professionally. But just if I say, hey, move your car, right now, please. Then if I'm taking a little bit short tone with you, it's not personal. I have to go move a barricade because it wasn't set correctly, and now there's a gap and a car could drive through. So things like that. So just kind of respecting that and making sure everyone's just speaking to each other kindly and firmly so that everyone is following the same rules.
This is a podcast just for market participants, but gosh, don't you wish all of society right now was listening? Can we just be a little kinder? Can we all understand that what you encounter in another person is only the tip of the iceberg? You don't know what they're going through in their life. Let's try to listen to each other, say please and thank you, be as kind as possible.
Please. Let's all remember that.
The other big one,
Yep.
in terms of professionalism, is staying open until the stated market close time. I've seen a lot of stuff online lately. I actually just dropped a comment on somebody. I think it was an organizer's, maybe a meme on Instagram or something, and then somebody else went into a long explanation about no way would they stay to the end of a market if a market wasn't busy. And it was actually more of a craft market situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to drop a comment in to just kind of explain why it's so important that you stay open until closing time. So when you're packing your tent, even if it's only one or two people doing it, any shopper walking up to that market, whether consciously or subconsciously, is going to register that the event is closing.
Yep.
And that they're not welcome. You guys are busy packing up. You're
Yeah.
not open to sales. And so that affects not only you, but every vendor in that event that may still have inventory and be selling and be willing to sell and is got to sell to support themselves. So closing early really, for me, is like the biggest no-no.
Yeah, definitely a hard no. And when folks say, oh, your markets are so great and busy and successful, I honestly think it's because we are really stay true to our hours. We have these rules in place on purpose because we have built up a loyal shopper following that knows they can count on us to be open when we say we're going to be open in the morning and stay open until we say that the market closes. And so as a shopper, you go to those markets as opposed to a market that says, oh, we're open at 8 until everyone sells out. Well, then if I'm running errands, I don't know if you're going to be open when I drive all the way over there, park, get my shopping bags out of my car. Maybe I'm hauling my baby or I've got to go home and feed my dog. So I'm kind of rushing through. You need to be reliable for folks that are coming to shop at the market. So staying open until you say, your closing time is really important. And vendors, please take care of each other. Please do this for your fellow vendor. you're going to want them to do it for you when you have product left to sell at the end of the day, and you should do it for them.
Absolutely. I mean, and that gets back to the same reason that we open on time, which is that if we don't do this, shoppers are going to know that they can go to Target right up until 9 o'clock if Target says they're open till 9.
Yep.
If they don't have that same feeling about us, what decision are they going to make as they're driving down the road? Which direction are they going to turn?
Exactly.
Towards the people they can trust. So it's really important. And we totally get that if you're having a slow day or if you're having bad weather, that can be really frustrating. It's not fun for the market team either, but it has long-term consequences. And so we all just need to kind of buck up and deal with it on that day and know that the payback is going to be a sunnier, happier day.
Exactly. I mean, you're going to have good days and not so great days as market operators, as market vendors, as market shoppers. I mean, sometimes the shoppers that come out in the rain or, when it's blazing hot outside, they're probably not having as much fun shopping outside as they do when it's nice out, or that maybe an air-conditioned grocery store might be for them too. So we're all kind of in this together in different ways. It feels different for each of us, but I think kind of recognizing what is the long-term goal of this? And it's to instill these habits. It's to, create these routines with everybody so that every market business can succeed and thrive. We can keep farmers farming. We can keep small food makers making, things like that. We have to remember those long-term goals. And I know I've had this conversation since we had that rainy day where we had to close last spring. I was just talking to my vendors this past weekend about that, just talking about, there's a river of water rushing through my booth. And I told them, you know what? I was so surprised that day. I mean, I was surprised, but not surprised. None of the vendors were angry. They weren't. I mean, it was an upsetting day because it was very red.
It was extreme. Yeah,
it was very upsetting. I'm not going to say
rain.
It wasn't hard or bad, but at the end of the day, not that day because we were all sad and tired and we went home. But in the expression at the end of the day, they all understood that it was really important that we opened up that day because we did have shoppers at the market that morning. And we had shoppers come the next weekend and they said, wow, you guys are so great. You're so tough. You were open. I was able to come get my bread real quick. Or, hey, I missed it last week because I didn't want to go out in the rain, but can't believe you guys were there. It was so great to see you guys really do what you say you're going to do, which is be open, rain or shine. Now, we're not open flash flood and crazy winds, but rain or shine.
Yeah, lightning's a hard one.
Yeah, but in the morning it was just raining and we are open, rain or shine. So just being open that day, I think really helped our loyal shoppers stay very loyal and our newer shoppers realize and recognize that they can really count on us. They really can. And this is really the whole goal that every farmer's market operator and vendor should have. Your goal should be to have everyone count on you to be there.
Right.
That's how we keep these markets thriving.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's really a professional tone to take, is to be there when you say you're going to be there.
Absolutely. So that gets to absences.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has something come up at some time. We run year-round markets. A lot of folks do now. I see more and more markets with longer seasons. And we know that over the course of those 52 weeks, one of those weeks your kid's going to be graduating, and one week somebody's going to have a wedding, and every once in a while you're actually sick. So,
yes.
I mean, it happens. We understand. But giving notice as early as possible that you're going to be out is important because, again, a lot of times markets have other vendors that want to get in where you're just absolutely out of physical space. We can't let them in. This gives us a chance to reach out to them and give them a chance to participate.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's also taking care of your fellow vendors, because if there's folks on the wait list and you don't tell me till the last minute and I call them, I say, hey, I do have a spot tomorrow. He just let me know he's not going to be there. And they say, I've been waiting for this opportunity. I don't have enough time to prep.
Right. Don't have time to inventory, to prepare.
Or I don't have a babysitter.
Right.
Or I don't have, so it's but if I would have told them 3 days earlier, they could have gotten all that stuff prepped and had the opportunity and the experience to participate in the market.
Yeah, so that's a big piece of professionalism, is either being there because you've committed to be there, or giving us notice that you're not. I mean, we have shoppers that literally do their grocery shopping at the market every week, and that's what we want. If they need bread and our bread baker calls out at the last second, there's a lot of other bread bakers we could have slid in. The shopper might not be entirely as happy as they would be with their regular baker, but they would be able to get bread. They
Yep.
wouldn't have to go to a grocery store to get bread and find out that it's easier to park there. We don't
Exactly.
want to make that clear to them.
Yes, please, let's not let them know. We got to keep this going.
Yeah, so letting us know if you're going to be there. Actually, being there, that'd be ideal. But
Yeah.
if you're not going to be there, letting us know that you're going to be out.
Yeah, and even markets that don't have a wait list or don't have people waiting to get in. Really, when I, run markets where I don't have folks that I can plug in if someone's out, but if you tell me if you sell scones and I have you placed next to the coffee vendor and you're going to be out, I can move another baked good vendor next to the coffee who would love to be next to coffee because then they can kind of have sales, play off each other. But if you don't tell me to the last minute, then it's like rearranging the map and trying to think about who can go in their spot and moving this person, toward the corner, things like that. So just kind of keeping in mind, oh, well, they don't have anybody that can fill in for me. It doesn't matter if I pop out at the last minute. Well, there's other things at play. Usually
Right.
as a manager, I like to scooch the map around a little bit. So keeping that in mind as a vendor, being professional, treating your market operator like a professional business as well.
Sure.
Yep.
There's a professional way to give feedback about another vendor or a staff member, any kind of issue that you have at the market. Probably the best is email. I'm going to say that's personal to managers. There's so many ways to communicate nowadays. I know that I look around at my contacts and some of them love email and some of them really only respond to texts. And there's a few people in the world that actually want a phone call.
Yikes.
Go figure.
You'll never hear from me. I'm just kidding.
But
No
generally
idea.
speaking, you want to do something one-on-one.
Yeah.
You want to make that an email. You want to make it a phone call.
Mhm.
If it has to be a conversation at the market that day, ask your manager to step aside with you and have that conversation
Yeah.
at the market, but not in front of other participants or shoppers, so that we keep everything professional.
Yeah.
Especially if you're upset about something, you don't want to let the heat of the moment put you in a position where you sort of make shoppers uncomfortable with you or make other vendors uncomfortable with you, when in fact, once you're heard and either there's a resolution or an explanation, you may be fine. But meanwhile, you've kind of created a reputation that you don't want to have.
Exactly. And, farmers markets are the biggest rumor
Oh, my
rumor
goodness.
mills and gossip chains you'll ever see in your life, both from the operator's side and from the vendor's side and shoppers even. So we're all out in the open. So just try to take a deep breath, take that into consideration. Hopefully your market manager is willing and able to have conversations with you, hard conversations about things. I know I've just said, hey, let's just talk about this. And sometimes they really have some feedback for me about either me or my staff or the operation of the market. And I just try to really listen and take into consideration what they're saying, explain it if there is an explanation, or say, oh, hey, I didn't know that was really bothering you or wasn't working for you. Let's try to find a solution to that.
And that's a professional approach for
Yeah.
a market manager. We all have to observe that fourth P. The managers, the team, we all want to behave professionally.
Exactly.
Now, there will be times at the market where you want your farmer's market manager to respond right that minute, or you want your vendor to respond right that minute, and they can't.
Yep.
They've got 7 other things that they have to do right that minute, or you want to talk to a vendor, but they're busy with a customer, not a time to demand that they respond to you. You want to talk to your manager, but they're dealing with a traffic incident half a block away, not the time to demand that they want to respond to you. So in either of those kind of cases, let's, again, politely, a little please and thank you goes a long way. Hey, please, let's talk about this a little bit later. Hey, please email me, and we can discuss this when none of us are busy at the market. And honestly, you know what? Sometimes you sit down, you relax, you're not being covered with a bunch of stresses all at once, and you might never even have to have that conversation because it might not seem as big a deal outside of that particular moment. But in any case, just responding to each other, making sure that we each understand that the other has been heard and that we will make space for it.
Yep.
Possibly not right in that urgent moment, but that we will make space for it and we will resolve it.
Yeah. Understanding that on both sides, very important, that fourth P. So really, professionalism mostly boils down to courtesy and communication, a little caring and consideration never hurts. Hey, those all start with C. We're going to have all those 4 Ps and the 4 Cs. So from all of those, just treating your market business like a real business and remembering that the other members of the market are your colleagues and your community will make you a real farmers market pro.
Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to Farmers Market University for helping market managers hone and verify their professional skills and for supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. Learn more and save on the 2025 Farmers Market Certification course by clicking the Farmers Market University logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow Farmers Market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Kat Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.